What's going on, folks? Thanks for hitting that download button and checking out a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. I'm your host, Rich, and if this is your first time checking out an episode, first of all, welcome. Second, a bit about what we do here. Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with content creators, entrepreneurs, and just awesome folks that are on our radar and discuss the gadgets, the gear, and the tech that they use to run their businesses, create content, and overall be more productive. When it comes to toys, we like to say toys in quotes around here because it's not just relegated to action figures, Funko Pops, all of the usual stuff that many of us collect, but it could be things like jet skis, cars, bikes, knives, guitar picks. You'd be surprised what people consider toys, so we like to embrace that broad definition on our show. So with that intro out of the way, let's get into some housekeeping and then turn it over to this week's guest. First off, I want to take a moment and thank all of you that have been downloading the show. We got a lot of new listeners, a lot of great download numbers for the last month. I know with the pandemic and so much going on, that's a lot more important than what we're doing here is, it means a lot that people are taking 30 minutes or an hour to consume our content, and especially on such a consistent basis. We really, really, truly appreciate it. So as always, we want to do this for you guys. And even though we seek out a lot of guests, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creatives to interview, to share their stories with you, if you feel that there's somebody we may have missed or someone that should be on our radar, by all means, feel free to share it with us. We'll reach out to them and we would love to share their story with our audience. I also wanted to remind all of you that obviously you can get new shows every other Wednesday on the RageWorks Network. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, all of the usual places. And you can also find us in the main feed for the RageWorks Podcast Network alongside our other great shows, including Turnbuckle Tabloid, Call Me When It's Over, Cheese, Trek Untold, and the regular season sportscast, and Black is the New Black. Now, some of our hosts are on hiatus, obviously with COVID and a bunch of other things going on, but we still have a lot of great shows, and we're always looking for great shows too. So if you are someone that's looking to join a network or have a recommendation of someone who'd be a great fit for the RageWorks Podcast Network, send them our way. We'll do our best to help them out. Now, with regards to this week's guest, this guest is definitely going to resonate with you if you are looking to get into the gaming industry, whether it's as a streamer, a content creator, or someone that wants to get into the corporate side of things. I think this week's guest and the message that he brings will resonate with you quite a bit. In addition to talking about all of the ways that you can get into the industry, its growth, etc., we also talk about some of the negative things that have been happening in our industry, the underrepresentation, or in some cases, the lack thereof for different demographics in the industry. We do address that. We do have some of those conversations, but more importantly, we try and share the gadgets, the gear, and just the strategies that you can take if you're interested in pursuing a career in the gaming industry. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop running my mouth and we're going to turn it over to this week's guest and learn about the toys and tech of their trade. What's going on, folks? On this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, we're taking a trip back down memory lane with a very good friend from the My Take radio days, Sebastian Burton, chosen one. I met him through our partnership with Unveil years and years ago, and we've kept in close communication for the last few years, and Sebastian's done a lot in the eSports and gaming industry, raising awareness, building his brand, and we're going to touch on that and learn about the toys and tech of his trade. Sebastian, what's going on?
What's going on, man? Good to see you, Rich. Good to see you. You know, it's always too long. It's been one day. It's been 10 years, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's crazy. You have had a crazy journey, and with the blowing up of esports over the last 5 to 6 years, and I mean real blowing up into a multi-million-dollar industry, you've been out there just building your brand, grinding, pushing your agency, and ensuring that esports stays competitive for everyone. And I want to get into what caused you to pivot and get into that facet of the industry, because when we were connected way back when, it was just about the community, playing video games, hanging out, promoting, doing what we had to do to get certain brands out there. And now with this multi-million-dollar industry, you've pivoted so much so that now you're inside, so to speak, and you're making changes from within. So let's talk about how that got started and what made you want to go into that side of the industry.
Yeah, man, I think that, we come from back when the time when it was so barren. It's like when America moved west and they just there was nothing out there, right? Like flat plains or whatever. And you had to set up, and they called it the lawless west, because it's just kind of hey, if you stake some ground here, you can build something, because soon it will be worth high value, excuse me. But right now it's just open land, and you got to do the labors of building it. And people like me and you come back from that time where our creativity and our connections held a lot of value to get things activated. And I always loved that about the industry, and I loved that it was our passion. We were gamers, and we tried to share that, and as you said, come together and build something special and enjoy it together, kind of enjoy the fruits of our labor. And as the years have gone on, of course, naturally, it's grown big, and it's gotten, to be lucrative. And we've seen that a lot of corporate entities, endemic and non-endemic, have come into the community, and some have had successes, some have failures. But what's most important is that I started Gold Standard Gaming to try to keep that soul, that pioneer going west soul of just innovation and inclusion for everybody. Because naturally, when things get corporate, they follow the money first more than the culture, right? Which we've seen time and time again in different industries leads to a lot of things that aren't fair, aren't inclusive. And, I started Gold Standard Gaming at first as a talent agency to start helping kids with skills and talents that may not appear on resumes, to, allow them to get chances to go to E3 and chances to work for companies that are looking for cosplayers or looking for gamers or sponsors that want to get on, they're looking for sponsors and sponsors that want to find players. So I was trying to be that gap. And, the market isn't really responding, or hasn't really responded to a high percentile of players getting paid. So that was a crazy year, because we spent probably more money than we made on getting our talent out there, all the PR, kind of spends, and, really trying to build some of these brands, make them super valuable. And so now we've pivoted from there into event promotion and digital advertising. And so that's just been really great. And we've seen really great results in just partnering with companies like EA or Supercell or Access Replay. We've done pretty good and cool things that, I'm really proud of. And I'm just grateful that my foundation of the time that I was spending with you are showing back up.
Well, I think one of the things that is important, and I'm glad that you brought up helping unseen talent get out there, because what's happening especially now with the COVID climate, as I like to say, is that a lot of those talents are finally starting to come to the forefront. Those kids that are spending 20, 30, 40 hours on Fortnite are pivoting and deciding that they're going to stream, and they're growing followers by the hundreds, by the thousands quickly. And the thing is that I feel that while it's great to see that, there's still a loss in terms of what these kids are trying to accomplish, because what they're doing is they're following personalities like Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, all these people. And I always tell everybody when they ask about these personalities, I always say the same thing. I'm like, listen, these people grinded. You're not really seeing how the sausage is made. You're just seeing, right, they're on Mixer. They're on the front page of this. It's like, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of times where people are sitting in a room streaming, and that number stays at 0 for the entire stream.
Right.
It's right. A very difficult thing. And the fact that you're going out there and you're helping them navigate these uncharted waters is massive, because I think we need more of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you hit it on the head. I just think that, really educating people on the opportunities is the key. Like, people are smart enough to figure it out, but they need to be shown. It's like, at one point in your life, you didn't even know how to eat. So, you got to know, people aren't going to intuitively, these things are only 10, 15 years old. And I mean, Twitch, if we're talking streaming specifically, having it be affordable to kind of put that lifestyle in practice for a real return, I'm talking about that's maybe 2 or 3 years where it's kind of like, okay, like these now 15, 16-year-olds can say, hey, if you just buy me this, then I will invest all my time. But I strategically recognize that if I can get, 3,000 people to sub to me, Twitch will offer me a partnership. That's an actual contract where I can get 50% of the next 3,000 people every month. And that conversation's brand new. So we're kind of in the shaping. When we were in the shaping stages of the gaming community, the new kids are in the shaping stages of, the streaming and building a brand that, entertains and delivers content. So it's new, it's unique. And I really just try to, like you said, it's all about the inclusion, man. It's like everybody doesn't get that opportunity. And so it's really just about spreading that out so that everybody gets a piece of the pie, because there's more than enough. What has
been some of the challenges you've had to deal with in terms of just planting your flag in this industry? And I say this because, all jokes aside, we know what the gaming industry is comprised of. It's all suit and ties. There's very, and I'm gonna use this nice correct word. There's very little urban representation.
Right.
We just don't have that. We don't have people that look like us and sound like us in those higher echelons. And that's not and I want people to understand that's not a jab at the industry as a whole, because at the end of the day, you put in the work, you reap the benefits. But what can we do as just a community to get better representation? Like I said, what roadblocks does that cause for you along the way?
That's a great question. I think that, first and foremost, you hit it on the head. You reap what you sow. So a lot of times, and I've been very vocal in the past, that, and I'm still vocal now, but a lot of times your own frustrations are the seed of, hey, what is everybody else doing? And so I want to caveat what I say next with that. Like, you have to do your own work, your own research, find your own skills and amplify them, and really just think outside the box to help build something if you want to own it. And that's the angle I'm speaking from. So I've always been, and as you know, like I've always been somebody looking for equality and chances. So I don't want to just say everybody in the industry doesn't give that out. Right. But a lot of people in the industry just don't give that out. I've been, just in the last 2 years, I've been interviewed by 3 or 4 of the top agencies in the industry to be an agent or a representative or an account manager for, like, the Coke contracts for these certain agencies, or for the Fossil Group contract, which is all diesel watches and things like that. And they're getting into eSports, non-endemic brands. And then I'll go through these interviews, and by the end, it's like I don't even get callbacks. I mean, it's to the point where, like, I have 4 or 5 email chains I want to show the world on how, like, I will go through these interviews all the way through the meeting on Zoom. And then for 3 top major agencies that deal with, when, past the COVID crisis, as you called it, COVID climate, when events come back and experiential marketing comes back, these are the agencies that get most of the contracts for your E3s, your PAXs, maybe private events or whatever. And I want it to be known that they didn't even finish. Like, I didn't get a no. It's just 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, because this is January. So we weren't even in the spike of what we're going through yet. And it's just like I didn't even get a call back, or, hey, this is why we went the other way, or anything like that. I suspect that, and that's been going on with me for probably 8 years, but the last 2 years, I'd say it's just been where I'm certain that if your background isn't traditional, or if you aren't from somehow connected to the people who have slid into the decision maker position, you're going to be ostracized. And again, I'm speaking from experience, and I do feel like the people who got in these positions of power at these various companies got there through funding and got there through positioning, not necessarily through the kind of brotherhood community and pioneer groundwork that you and I laid down years ago. And it wasn't just you and I. We have thousands of allies, hundreds and thousands of allies who did what we did, but they're not the decision makers, right? The decision makers are the people who are coming in and getting, $3 million to start some league, and within 4 years what we did over 15, they're in positions of decision making and they're raising rounds of 20 million, 30 million with no tangible product, just a really popular brand for a really popular game or really good connections in really powerful positions. So that's the kind of thing that's troubling for anybody who's authentically proven that they can engage this audience and build brands successfully. If you don't have those kind of connections and plugs, if you will, it just seems like it is a constant uphill battle. And it seems to be similar in every other community. I got friends who are accountants. I got friends who are, sports players. I got friends who are doctors. And these are kind of some of the similar stories you hear in American culture. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing about it is, are you seeing that you're fostering these relationships and they're coming in trying to do the easy pickings, meaning, hey, we want to start a gaming team, and they don't know the logistics that are behind it. And then when they finally see it and you expose to them the work that's involved, they get scared. Do you think that's part of it also?
I think that it's like if they don't really get scared, it's just more like they want to, like, how do I throw money at this and make it work? And when it seems to be someone of your caliber or mine can truly direct them there in a real fashion based off experience, they want somebody who can hand you an education on paper that says, hey, he can really do this, whether they have the experience or not. The industry is now more dominated by that than actual experience and qualifications is how I feel about it. I feel like people who want to start teams, if I was to give you the truth, the team model to me doesn't work. This is why almost no team in all of this entire industry, no matter what team you name, is not profitable. It's all money that's been raised. So they're not beating their expenses. They just have a lot of burn per month.
Right.
And that doesn't get talked about daily. It's just like, oh, they're big, they're huge, they're big, they're huge. So I think the team model is something that will not work for esports. And I'm very known for saying esports 2.0 is going to come once the bubble breaks. And I think the bubble is almost as swelled up as it's about to be. I've always had this prediction. I'll say it for you. So remember, 2021 is the year the bubble will break. And then 2022 is when the new growth will happen, where the original culture will make its way back in. So I'm looking forward to that. And I work with that kind of goal in my mind, just because I feel like even the structure of teams and, kind of some of the things that are happening now is based on like a popularity club, because all the data that was floating around, you remember 2 years ago when everything you could find on either LinkedIn or websites or blogs was like esports is about to be $1 billion industry, industry. So much money was raised off of that in the last 2 years. We're just letting that money kind of swell through, because what happens with investors is once that return doesn't happen, because they were told, oh, don't worry, 2-3 years, it's going to be like, you've made a genius investment, time to exit. But we're seeing things like Echo Fox, and we're seeing things like leagues close down and take teams out because, the expansion didn't work out. And obviously the COVID climate has slowed down a lot of the plans of the industry. Half of the industry is experiential tournaments and activations and things like that. So trying to make this pivot to Zoom is slowing a lot of things down, and or Zoom, or at least online events and things like that, has slowed things down. I think that to get back to your main point is that teams just kind of, to me, like, it's just a lot of money raised. It's not really actually accurate. So it's like the whole new teams coming in following the big five are all just really like trying to match what they're seeing because they feel like they have a different flavor, but they're not recognizing that model won't work. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. The thing about it is, it's funny that you use that explanation, because what happens, I've noticed, especially over the years, like a few years ago, I went to Vegas. I saw that Vegas was opening this big esports arena, and I saw it and I was like, okay, I guess this is the stage where we're at. But the thing about it is that just because the first 5 teams, like you said, used that logic to get to the place that they are, doesn't mean that it's going to be a cookie cutter road for everyone. I remember maybe last year, Gary Vaynerchuk on his show was saying, oh, esports is going to be the next big thing. You got to put money into it and blah, blah, blah. And of course, like anything else, they think the guy has a crystal ball. But to your point,
right,
there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to not only find the talent for these brands, but create awareness, because it's like anything else. People go out there and buy a pair of Nike shorts because there's a Nike emblem on it. They don't buy it because they care about the quality sometimes. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But those same shorts may be made in the same factory as a pair of shorts you buy in Walmart. The only thing that separates them is a check. So I think
that's a fact. That's a fact.
I think with a lot of these teams, they see the top five and they're like, we're just going to follow their model and it's going to work. And it's like, listen, people are being a lot more restrictive with how they put money out. Like you just said, everything blew up when there was a lot more dispensable income. I mean, half of the country is, and that's just a guesstimate, half of the country's unemployed, so to speak. Nobody's going to go and pump in $25,000 to get a team off the ground when you can't even do a physical event to showcase them. It's impossible.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. And so, and it had problems even before that. Like, that's absolutely accurate. But it even had problems before that. If you just look at, like, again, the case study, and I'm very, well documented on record saying, like, you had Odell Beckham, Kevin Durant, the Yankees, two different financial firms, and who else knows what, dumping money into Echo Fox. By September 2018, it was like, oh, they're unstoppable. Like, whoa, this is the new thing. They got Sonic Fox. They have, some of the bigger Smash players. They have a shooting game team. They're one of the few teams that actually got a contract in the League of Legends series. Rick Fox is bringing them into the Rocks Ballers, and it just seems like, wow, like this is it, right? Like, these guys are like getting mentioned on ESPN, and Rick Fox is talking to Kenny Mayne on ESPN, and you start to see it up close, and then you kind of turn around, and 3 months later, it's like they're filing to split up, and it's racism and it's things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's not happening, but we all know that money rules it all. So if the money was being made, like if sales transactions were happening, we know that cures and movements and people getting moved out of companies would happen. You can tell by the way things transpired, which is not just Echo Fox is just the example. This is just what we know. It's like they couldn't even sell the team. They couldn't sell it. It couldn't be sold. Like a team came, they were valued at 150 in 2018. And by June 2019, they couldn't sell it for 30 million. So you raised 150 and then you couldn't sell it for 30. That right there is alarming. It's alarming, and it should, and you use it as a case by case scenario. But if you wanted to put that case up against anybody's case, I don't know anybody with more celebrity than Rick Fox.
That's
I don't
right.
know anybody more with any more credibility from Twin Galaxies than Jace Hall. I don't know one more popular than Sonic Fox. Sonic Fox won the game eSports Player of the Year award over Ninja. I don't know if you get bigger people. I don't know if you get any other team. Compare the cases. I don't know if you get any other structure and funding from Odell Beckham and Kevin Durant, and you have the New York Yankees had an Echo Fox Day. I don't know if anybody gets more press, more opportunities, more business connections, and more actual capital to burn than Echo Fox, and then they lose 79% value in a 6-month period. I don't know if any other team or any other case can show that, okay, don't worry, that's not happening to us, based on the information I can see. And so that's why you're right. People do come in and they have these ideas, but we can just look at the data and see that, like, that whole model is high risk, and I haven't seen huge reward. You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean, when you look at gaming personalities, the one that sticks out, the outlier out of this entire equation is Ninja, because the guy has partnerships with Adidas. The guy, he's a tastemaker. Wherever he goes, people go to that platform, etc. But my whole thing is, going back to what you said before, notice Ninja is not a team. Ninja is one guy. And in terms of representation and what you're trying to do with your brand, are you seeing that this is going to be the shift going forward, where it's going to be the one guy, where you have to have that combination of moxie, engaging personality plus skill as the big motivator? Or do you still feel that there is a place for teams, just not as aggressive as it's been thus far?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that right now, if I'm speaking unbiased, the industry is 100% leaning towards the personality kind of leading. the way, but I do think there's opportunity for leagues and teams. I just think that really the gap is, and this is kind of getting into some, what I want to do. So I may be telling on myself a bit, but some things we're working on over on this side is it's really about bringing the people together, the players together, the communities together. Because right now, the difference between gaming and football is that, or basketball, is that you can't have a bunch of Call of Duty players trying to be in the audience of fighting game players and vice versa. They bought different games because of different genres and different cultures. And that is just the facts. Now, how do you get over that hop? That is what everybody wants to figure out. But I've already seen it done properly, and it was too early. Do you remember the Championship Gaming Series?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I have nothing but high praise for the idea, the original idea. But obviously from that original idea, corporate and, things I've read through the years and some of the things they were trying to do with kind of some of the shady stuff the corporate team was doing there, they ruined it. But it also was that it was just ahead of its time. I can remember watching that faithfully because one of my good friends, Sun Tzu, was on the LA Complexity, and I just wanted to watch DOA. But if the LA Complexity, because all of the games competed on the same scoreboard, so like Counter-Strike was 5 points, DOA was 2 points, FIFA was 2 points, Project Gotham was, or That's DOA was 5 points, Project Gotham was 5 points, however it broke down. If the score after Project Gotham, FIFA, and Counter-Strike was 20 to 25, and now it's Swoozy versus Master for, and all Swoozy has to do is win 2 to guarantee that the Dallas team couldn't win. I mean, that's an intense fight for everybody there because, you don't play DOA or care, but if this guy wins 2 rounds, you're guaranteed to win it. Or if your guy comes back and wins all 5, you guys tie and go to overtime or however it works. It's like that was bringing pressure and fun and making me understand Counter-Strike and FIFA and all these things I didn't play. Obviously, as a Dead or Alive fan, I didn't play, but I was incredibly captivated when it was like, okay, they're counter-terrorist side, like they need 3 rounds and LA wins it. That became more a part of my fandom than any other model that has ever existed. I mean, ever, by a lot. There's been no model since that has made me come into another genre and like have raw, real investment. You know what I mean?
No,
Engagement.
It's true. I think that your example is crucial because it shows exactly where streamers are. Like, yeah, you have the one guy that might stream Call of Duty 22 hours a day. But if you have a person that streams some Call of Duty, plays some God of War, does, a little bit of Mass Effect, or just a variety of games, it allows different audiences to engage. I think it's one of the reasons why, attributing it to podcasting, people love Joe Rogan so much, because one week he can talk to Mike Tyson, next week he can talk to Elon Musk. And while the personality is driving you to the content, the value you're getting from all of these other personalities is what's making that person a leader in the industry. I think with gaming, it's true. I think we're a community of many genres. It's just that the agendas, like you were saying, are being just cultivated in specific ones, and that's starting to lose its appeal, especially with all these controversies just trickling out every other week.
Right, absolutely, 100%. And I mean that's kind of the way it's going. It's like, again, back to what you were saying about, what Ninja's doing. Yeah, he definitely changed the industry because Fortnite became such a popular thing that he was able to capitalize on it. But here's the thing with that. As you see from Mixer and what's recently gone down with them is that the streaming personalities are making big numbers for a one-man army. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's his wife, there's the team, there's all that. But it's a one-man show.
Yep.
And the numbers for him, 800,000 people being in his audience at all times, like active live will, spend. That makes him a very rich man and very powerful in what he can do for influencing. So a lot of companies are coming to him, but then we look deeper into the data and look at what it's actually doing for these platforms. And, that's where I'm at, right? Like, I'm definitely aware that the last 2 years, Ninja, Nick Merckx, all those guys have shown like, hey, why would you even compete? You could just do this. So for those individual gamers, that really works. But companies, beware, because Microsoft had to pay Ninja 2 times. They paid him to come over and be exclusive.
Yep.
And then now that it didn't even work a little bit, we tracked it the whole time, and we saw that by September last year, it was July, the move happened. By September last year, Mixer had gained absolutely no ground in the streaming wars, 0 ground.
Yep.
In fact, they may have lost ground. They went from 4% to like 2.2% of market share after paying one of these huge, unstoppable streamers multiple. They paid Ninja and Shroud and a couple other ones, right? And nothing happened at all. That's the data I'm looking at now that goes back to the genre conversation, because you're not moving the needle if you're not moving the entire gaming community. It's segmented, but we need a product that brings them all together, and that's kind of the stuff we're working on now.
Well, going into that, I mean, with you and when you're looking at potential clients and potential brands you want to work for, what's your, obviously without giving away the secret of the sauce, what's your criteria when you're out there, when you're trying to acquire a potential talent or help a potential talent reach their potential? What are you looking for? What are some key indicators that you think, hey, this person, they just need to get put over a little bit to help them reach that upper echelon? What are your, let's put it this way, what are your gold standards?
Yeah, so well done. I think one of the main things that always drives me every single day, no matter what, is innovation. I just even like saying the word. I don't think it gets said enough. I think that being innovative in my life anyway is the one thing that will always make the rest follow. It'll make the success follow. It'll make the, if money is what you're driven by, it'll make the money follow. It will make the people follow. It will make the new events follow. I mean, everything comes from when someone does it, because everybody wants to be right to do something the second time. Once they see it, they're like, oh, I know what we can do. And you'll get a bunch of spin-offs, but you also get a bunch of people who want to be a part of what you're building. So the first thing I look for is innovation. If I've never seen it before, I probably want to talk to you about it. And it got me, whether it's good content or a good song or, a really cool video, or like a great, I've seen fireside chats. I'm like, wow, I've never seen that kind of, interviews. Even your show, Toys and Tech, back in the day, just, before it was, I remember just the way you were bringing content out. Things like that, to me, it's like the first catcher of like glimmer, like, yo, that's crazy. Like, no one's doing that. And that's like what I want to be a part of. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my number one, I'd have to say, by a lot. And then number two is just motivation. Like, if you want to motivate, I want to get behind people who want to motivate. I just know that, as a guy who dropped out of college and, at 2021 was in Japan helping develop, DOA 5 and, with Japanese media and things like that. Those things never go past me, because I feel like what took me there was taking a game and making it culture. We DOA players were very well known for being, we produced, Vanessa, the model. Swoozy is obviously Swoozy on YouTube. I've done well for myself. I've put songs on video games, songs in Nickelodeon. There's a very unique cast of us all in that community. And, I find that it was our innovation. It was just, we took the game and we made it more about meetups and culture and, mixing martial arts with hip hop and swag. And, we're in the New York area a lot, so about it. It's just kind of like, and then a lot of DOA players got selected to go on television when Ultimate Gamer was out. So it was just all about being the first and being the most unique. And so that's what gold standard means to me, is like, bring something to the table and everybody can eat. Everybody should just bring something to the table. And like, when you do that and you're the master of your own thing, we all got marketers, we all got salespeople, we all know great podcasters like you, but like, what is the thing that you do that that is just untangible, right? It's just that untangible. So I look for those, and then motivation. All right, I guess, I said innovation, but then motivation. Like, if you're motivated, I was paying those Amtrak tickets to go to tournaments way before you were making money. I was going to them to win a pot of $800, which was like huge at 16 or 18 or whatever. It's like that kind of stuff. When I feel that energy coming off of somebody, like, I don't care, man, this means the world to me. That's the kind of people I want to get behind, the young people, man. So I definitely like innovation and motivation.
That's what's up. I particularly like the fact that you always, while you work hard to ensure that there's representation across larger scale games. I also like that you appreciate and have a fondness for the independent developer and the independent games, because those become the foundation for sometimes the communities of the future. I mean, look how far Rocket League came. That, Rocket League started off exactly like that as an indie game, and before you know it, it was huge and became this massive cult following. Do you feel that we need, as a community, the media needs to go back to basics with indie developers, especially because it feels like every other day a major company is gobbling up an indie developer?
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I don't need to beat the horse dead with that. I think that 70% of the market is indie games, and then the only part that gets talked about is the other 28% that's AAA titles. So it's like that's what gets talked about. That's what gobbles the media up. As you said, the 28 to 30% is always taking chunks out of the 70%. But I think that you're absolutely right. The industry, it will go to that, because here's the deal: the way the gaming is being distributed is changing, right? Like 5G has now made mobile more realistic for gaming, and obviously the COVID climate, as you called it, has made mobile more valuable and online more valuable. And so now, you got companies that are making these games and servicing different audiences. We call it the hyper casual audience. These people would never even think about competing competitively in a place. They wouldn't even think about what it takes to get to a tournament or booking a hotel room or thinking about finals or regionals, but they're on their phone and they're in a pool of 10,000 people. And if they beat this little puzzle the fastest, they're going to come down to the next 5,000, and they're playing for 10 grand. I mean, and they're on the couch and they're drinking tea, and it's a wife to a husband who the husband's like, "You playing that game again?" And these are becoming valuable customers at low customer acquisition. So again, you follow the money. A lot of hyper casual companies are coming up right now, and no one knows who they are or plays their game because we're not discussing it, because they're not in that 30%. So there's a huge open treasure chest. If the Wild Wild West was eSports 10 years ago, mobile is the new one. You can stake your flag in the ground and really drive a new audience. I'm talking about women, children who aren't competitively looking to get into eSports, children who don't, necessarily have the specs to keep up with the PCs or have the $700 a pop games that the consoles are about to do.
Yep.
Mostly everyone has a cell phone, and most of these indie games don't have a specs issue. As long as you can download it, you're in. So I see that what you're saying is, just kind of fact. Like that's actually what's happening. You actually just kind of gave away the market. I hope the listeners really, really take that one in, because mobile is where it's at right now. I've seen really cool mobile controllers and pads that are hooking up to phones now, and that's where I'm seeing the industry. And indie is leading that because the major developers don't spend their time there. They just make ports of their large title to the mobile, right?
Well, I mean, I saw Razer came out with that new peripheral that you put your mobile phone in. It essentially turns your phone into almost a Switch. And I said to myself, this is where the next battle for eyes is going to take place, because your 700 your $70 games, like you said, and your $500 consoles are there, but almost everybody is a little less apprehensive about getting a new phone than they are getting a new console, even though the phone in most cases costs more than the console does.
But it's all in payments, it's all in contracts. As long as you keep it good, they'll give you a rental. We know how it goes with the cell phone market. The cell phone market doesn't act like the console market. So, again, you're dropping game on people, because that should just tell you right there the low barrier entry for the players. The opportunity, it's all so high right now. It's all so high. And I'm sure you couldn't name the top five, not you couldn't name because you're an expert, but most people couldn't name, the top 5 games that aren't named Call of Duty and Fortnite that get played on mobile daily.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So that's exactly speaking to what you're saying about the industry just literally redhead stepchilding the teams that are in the basement working on that next amazing, Dead Cells or Braid or Rocket League was a great example. I mean, they're just there, and it's just kind of the grind of like being an underground rapper. It's very comparable, right?
Yep.
So, I think that you hit that on the head, man. Like, that's exactly what I think. I think the mobile market and just indie games in general, I think that a lot of the consoles are starting to give them like their own spaces in stores and promotions, and Twitch seems to be partnering with them. So I think it's getting known, but it's still just so evergreen for those with that intel you got to be able to capitalize on it.
How do you feel about the next quote unquote console race? Where do you feel that each company has their pluses as well as their minuses, or do you feel that we're getting into a playing field where it's just if one game is on one console and it's not on the other, that's the only differentiator?
I feel like we're at a point where graphics aren't being as valued as they once were. I think that just from surveying close friends and experts and, executives from publishers and developers and people like you, and I'd love to hear your opinion, but it just seems like this generation's graphic jump isn't the main driver more than like having it and playing those exclusive games is the driver, which leads me to believe that, you can get the having exclusive games thing without having to spend, I don't know how much PlayStation or Microsoft has to, or Sony or Microsoft has to spend in R&D and technology and things like that to build these expensive consoles. So I think that things like Stadia and Xbox Game Pass has just been killing it. I think that we're going to start seeing that trend of cloud gaming because as 5G rolls out and our internet kind of catches up to the rest of the world, it just feels like and the current circumstances, it just feels like finding a way to eliminate the console. I mean, PlayStation's even dropping one with no disc, right?
Yep.
So it's like finding a way to get rid of the hardware seems to be the next step. I mean, like this is the next one after these. I believe these are the last ones. To sum that up into a bullet point, I believe these are the last ones. And I think that it doesn't really matter who buys which one now because either way, it's like, okay, who's going to buy how much money are they going to make off this group of people that are just loyal to buying it? And I think that my prediction is that they're both going to vastly undersell their previous counterparts. And then we'll have a conversation of what's next. And I think that people like Google with Stadia or, like I said, Xbox with Game Pass and PlayStation has one as well. Those are the ways you're going to see people deciding like, hey, because I don't think graphics are a big deal because you look at something like Fortnite. I mean, Sony just invested $250 million into Epic yesterday, and I feel like, Fortnite has never been about the graphics. Half the time you play Fortnite, half the time glitchy stuff happens today, 3 years after it's released.
100%. Well,
so
go ahead.
Oh, go on, please.
No, what I was going to say is that right now you look at when we were growing up and you'd beat a Nintendo game and you would get a thanks for playing. No elaborate ending, no nothing. And some of those games are considered all-time classics. Now I kind of feel that the community is a little bit spoiled, to your point, because, you get these mind-blowing graphics and this and XYZ, and that's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but you need that $2,000 television. You need to spend that $70 for the game. You need that extra $700 for the console. So to appreciate that experience, to mimic what you see on a YouTube trailer, the barrier of entry is massive. And I think that with games, that's the toughest part. I think the biggest frustration for me as a gamer over the years is that you end up having an entire shelf full of discs that as soon as a new console comes out, sometimes you got to essentially sell those for pennies and you can't even enjoy them. So I've always been a big proponent of backwards compatibility, and I think that that's what frustrates a lot of people. A lot of people I talk to, they're like, man, this new PlayStation 5 or this new Xbox system is coming out, and nobody's talking about if I can play these old games or not, or they'll only stop at like the previous generation, and people get pissed off. I mean, I still have a PS3, a launch model PS3 that still plays PS2 games, and I kept it for that exact reason,
Yeah, that's classic, dude. That's classic. That you hit it on the head with that. It's just kind of like, at what point do we begin to? I feel I gotta imagine that even through the corporate structure we were talking about a little while ago, I gotta imagine that the company's gotta know. I feel like that's why Sony would invest in Epic, because Epic has made their own Steam store, which means that Sony could probably be a part of those IPs or, a part of those projects. And again, that would be them getting into the PC market. See, and they're getting away from having to build so much hardware. And I imagine Microsoft who's a software company first, they probably had to spend double or triple because Sony's a hardware company. If I own a chicken farm, then wings at my house are free, right? So I'm sure it's cheaper for them to build PlayStations than it is for Microsoft to build Xboxes because, if I owned the cow farm, I'd have to source the chickens. And Microsoft is a software company. So I feel like both of them are probably spending way more money than they need to gain, our engagement or our spending with them. Because, as I said, Fortnite is an example. Rocket League is a great example. These games are low barrier to entry and they're free and they're on other places than a new PlayStation or a new Xbox. So it seems to me that, and you made a great point about the backwards compatibility. At what point can I stop and enjoy all games through time? And it just seems, again, like Xbox Game Pass is bringing those games back. Stadia is allowing you to play it anywhere and, on cloud-based. And I think about if, and when we get to a place where we're back in live format, I've been stating this for, probably since 2020 at least. I just think that like cloud-based tournaments, even when you walk into a place, like if the place is tethered with 5G and it can be that kind of speed at all times, premium, do we need consoles? You know what I mean?
That's right.
Do we need to have, does the tournament organizer need to bring 41 consoles? You know what I mean? And all those TVs and things like that. Like, are we getting to a point where it's starting to be like beaming the technology to where it needs to be and trusting in, the latency and speeds and all the variables. But I mean, it just feels like we're traveling towards that. Then everybody like, oh, you got that new PS5 again. There's more data to be done, research, and more time to go by, and we'll see how they deal with the launches. But just even watching Sony pull out of E3 last year, and just as the time transpires, it seems like we're getting away from consoles. So I think this console year is cool, but I'm paying a little bit closer to the election, paying a little bit closer attention to the election.
The last one before we go into the next segment of the show, where do you see Nintendo in all this?
I always felt like Nintendo is the type of brand that just plays it really, really safe. Nintendo reminds me of the NFL. They really don't get involved with their communities. They never really have. They've always just offered it as a standpoint of we're a family company and everybody's included, even if that's not necessarily always true. They can stand on it because it's the same way like the NFL can say like, hey, everybody's welcome here, but obviously all the heat that they're catching is from different directions of different groups of people who feel like that's not a true statement. I feel like Nintendo has done a really great job of keeping themselves out of any kind of conversations of what they're going to do or how they're going to be involved or, kind of develop what's coming next. You can never tell what Nintendo's going to do next. And they kind of like it like that. They're not looking to be like in that conversation of who's better. They didn't involve themselves and they don't want to involve themselves. They move at their own pace. They're never going to release on the same time. Like this would be the fourth generation of Xbox and PlayStations that have gone by where Nintendo is not even there in that same year. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like they don't really move to the beat of anybody else's drum, and it served them well,
There you go. All right. I want to move into what we like to call the hot seat. It's just a series of rapid fire questions covering different aspects of what you do. And we usually use that as the second part of the show, and then we'll wrap up. So real easy, real off the cuff. We'll start with the first one. When you turn on your phone in the morning, what's the first app you go to?
Oh, good question. LinkedIn.
Nice. What do you think is one of the biggest things that's hurting a platform like LinkedIn in terms of reaching a younger demo?
I think that to reach a younger demo, they just need to flex more on their capabilities. Like, I don't know why they're scared to tell people like, hey, you can directly message CEOs of companies and their tendency to open is definitely over 50% on any other platform. Like it's insane. Like the conversations that you can have with very same people who on any other platform, from Gmail to Facebook to any other place you would contact somebody, they wouldn't even give you the time of day, let alone connect with you. LinkedIn, you can get connections and you can, really build and have your voice heard if you have the, credentials, or even if you don't have the credentials, but you have a proper way of introducing yourself, you can really unlock and network in ways that you simply couldn't do maybe even 20 years ago. I would beat that point in the head, because I feel like that's what most people on the internet are looking for, is information and opportunities. So that's what I feel like LinkedIn is just slept on in that way.
Nice. Besides LinkedIn, what are 3 apps you can't live without?
Oh, good question. These days, if I had to base it on right now, I definitely can't live without Airtable. I definitely can't live without like my calendar, Google Calendar, and I would have to say like Fiverr. Like having the Fiverr app, I do a lot of outsourcing, and having some of those professionals at my fingertips is just it allows me to keep everything automated with kind of some of our campaigns and things we're working on. Having the Fiverr app is incredible. That's just my favorite thing.
The movement, especially as you said, with 5G, do you see yourself using your phone or mobile device to conduct more of your business now than your laptop or your desktop?
For sure. With the opportunities of like Fiverr, and Zoom is another great app that is right in your phone, and you can set meetings and jump right in and split the screen and share your phone screen, and just I definitely 100%. I think as long as 5G and the phones begin to respond properly, so that we're moving at a genuinely seeable, faster pace, I think that's coming, and it might be already upon us. I'm just not that good with it.
There you go. What's your favorite piece of tech besides your phone or your computer?
I really like my Stream Deck. I wish I used it more, but I really like my Stream Deck. Like, I always have fun when I'm taking a few minutes to like program it before a stream or something. I always am like, why don't I just take an entire 2 days, block everything else out, and just become like a master of this awesome thing. It just does production. It does audio, sound. Obviously, it changes scenes. You can just like add pictures to things. I mean, it's having a nice mixer studio right in your fingertips. So I love the Stream Deck.
There you go. What was the last book you read?
I just finished The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Nice.
And just a classic book about the tactics of engagement, but really it delves deeper into your mind and a lot of philosophies that great warriors through the years have had.
As a gamer, what are you playing now?
Right now, I'm not playing much. I'll still dabble in Mortal Kombat here and there. It's pretty cool that one thing that I carry as a badge of honor is like, I should be able to, any fighting game that I've spent a lot of time on, in March through April, when it released last year, April through June, I was pretty hardcore on it. So any fighting game, enthusiast will tell you, no matter how far I get away from it, I should still be able to, scrap with you a little bit. And I always like to just pop it on for maybe an hour. If I can go like 4 or 5 straight wins, to me, because I spend no time anymore on the game, it still shows I still got something in my mechanics.
Nice. What was the last item you purchased that was less than $100 that made your life easier or more enjoyable?
That's a good question. I mean, was I supposed to be prepared for that? That's a really good question. Less than $100? That's a great question. Let me think. I buy a lot of items, so
exactly. It doesn't. It could be something so simple. There's no barrier with that.
Yeah. I think maybe this tripod for my phone camera.
Okay.
Like the adapter. It was $20, and it just holds your phone. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. The thing that goes on top of the tripod. I've just never had that. I have cameras. I have the tripods, but I've never really had the little camera clip to go on top of my big tripod. And then now that I'm using it, it's like, why did I not just grab this? I worked at Best Buy in 2014. Like, why didn't I not grab one of these on discount years and years and years ago? You know what I mean? It's just that. It's been that helpful.
Nice. It wouldn't be Toys and Tech without talking about some toys. What was your favorite toy from your childhood?
Forever? Oh, good question. Yeah, man, I got to say, like, that PS2 or that Xbox. I mean, my whole thing, I tell people, is I came up off the Xbox. I was an Xbox maniac. I think that was my toy, because it wasn't just about playing and gaming. It was like I had all the old CDs around the house, all the Now 29s and Now 30s. Yep. I had them all loaded into the music, and I had, you know what I mean? It was my thing. I was opening that green box and pressing the button and getting into that green world with the four things and that big Xbox ball. That was like where I was living. You know what I mean? That was like home. You know what I mean? That's the first thing that makes me feel warm and reminds me of CT and like like that was my place. You know, I was very introverted and I just loved it. And that was it. But at a younger age, I'll give you a toy. Probably at a younger age, my favorite was a little mini golf game where like it was like you set the little like hole up and you set like it has a little hill. And like, I would just be trying to golf down because we had this long back hallway, and I would always set it up in there and go further. The green only went about 5 feet, but you know, it was for a kid. But I'd go way deeper down the hole and make sure the hall floor was clean. And I'd try to like get it from way back. That was like my jam. I used to do that probably way too much. Like I thought I was Tiger Woods, y'all.
Last question. If I were to call you 1 year from now and say, Sebastian, how's Gold Standard doing? What is your goal to be at a year from now?
Yeah, man, I definitely think that we are, you know, a leader in events, you know, throwing events and experiences. I definitely think that our new project, Cage, cosplay, anime, gaming, and eSports, I think that we're a leader in content and you know, in culture and inclusion. And I think that, you know, we're expanding outside of just America to countries like Ghana and Nigeria and places that are developing their esports scenes worldwide, and South America as well, Brazil, and places that have people of color that also really want to build and express themselves and develop games and, you know, really connecting the world other than what we've seen thus far. I really, like I said, innovation and hopefully just leading the world into a new, you know, as what we call eSports 2.0, where it's kind of like a new community that doesn't look like the one from maybe this year or the years before.
All right. And our last segment, always something that we like to use to give a little more value. We call it Reach One, Teach One. My question for you to close things out, for the new generation of gamers and content creators that are on the come up, what's one piece of actionable advice you'd give to anybody that came to you and said, hey, I want to get into what you do?
Go learn, man. Gembu Gembishi, and excuse me if I'm saying it wrong, but it was actually a term created by a gentleman at Toyota. His name forgets me, but he actually developed a Toyota Sienna by going to America because he was, you know, losing lots of sleep over the fact that Toyota was saying, hey, if you don't develop a new vehicle, we're going to go another direction with things because, you know, you haven't developed anything in a long time. And so research had said families in the country in the 80s were looking more at minivans. And so he didn't know what they wanted in minivans. So he went and drove across the country in an older model of a Toyota minivan and just pulled up in the parking lots of essentially Walmarts and Target, whatever those stores were in the 80s, and just across America, from California. He flew from Japan to California. The company gave him their older model of minivan that wasn't selling very well. And his strategy to get sales and get the Toyota Sienna to become a popular product in America was to drive from California across the country all the way to Maine and just stop at different stores and say, hey, tell me everything you like about this and hate about it. And he just literally went out there by himself and collected data for 3 weeks of driving across the country, went back home and made what was the Toyota Sienna, which to this day is the #1 selling minivan of all time. So I tell people, like, get out there, go do it. Like, you don't have another choice. Experience over education every single time. Experience over education every single time. Experience over education every single time. Go out there and get it. That's experience no one can take from you. You can fall, bump your head. You can have great success. You can be right in the middle and be about lukewarm. But what you'll never lose is that day you went out and you learned, whether you liked it or not, because you had to experience it. So get out there, bump your head, get on that online tournament, you know, figure out, you know, what you could do to be a better player, and then begin to think outside of that. If you're a player, if you want to be a tournament organizer, get out, volunteer. Even right now, you can't get offline, help an online tournament. You know, jump in conversations with people who also administrate tournaments, whatever you want to do, right? If you want to develop games, where we just had a big talk, you and I, on indie developers and how small they are and how you could probably contact them through LinkedIn. Just get out there and gain your experience. You know, no one can take that from you. And so that's what you should be focused on working on, and the rest will just begin to unlock. It's like you can't control the time. Your time and the universe's time is totally different. But as long as you're working towards it, great things will begin to happen. You and I are both examples of that.
That's right. Last but not least, to call to action to wrap things up, where can people find you and keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, man. ConsultGSG.com. ConsultGSG.com. That is our new website. We're proud of it because, our website was great, but we really wanted to bring something 2020. It just launched back in June, and we wanted to give it so that it's easy to access us. You can get one-on-one meetings booked. You just go there, you book, it'll notify the team, and we'll get you set up with a meeting so we can help really grow and develop your business, your brand, and, showcase you to the world, help you showcase you to the world, not just, give you the fish and say, here, eat, it's a good fish. We're going to give you the rod and, sit with you and teach you how to fish so that when we leave, we know you're good to eat for life.
That's what's up. That's a great way to close things out. Sebastian, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to share the toys and tech of your trade.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. And, Toys and Tech for Trade is probably one of my favorite casts, and I'm definitely a fan, so thanks for having me on.
What a phenomenal conversation with Sebastian. It was so great to reconnect, share his story, share the toys and tech of his trade, and hopefully give those of you that are in the video game space that are looking to take it to the next level, whether it's as a pro gamer or a streamer, some actionable info that you can use to improve those chances and maybe put you on a path towards making a career out of gaming. Definitely, again, just a great opportunity that I got to connect with Sebastian and share his story with you guys. As always, everything we talked about in this episode will be linked in the show notes. Some of those links may be affiliate links, which if you click and use, we will receive a small commission, which goes towards helping give you guys a better on-air product, as well as improving our website and, of course, improving everything that we do on YouTube as well. Again, it's at no cost to you. You click it, we get a small commission, and you get whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's a product, software, or a service. So definitely we invite you to use those links. We really, really would appreciate it. As always, if you're checking out this podcast on iTunes, please take a moment and shoot us a review. We would appreciate it, whether it's just doing something as simple as clicking the stars or writing a brief review. Either or, again, it's huge. It does really well for social proof, which is always great when you're trying to secure more larger guests, especially if you want to get into actors and things like that. The first thing is, who's listening? Is your audience engaged, etc.? Every review helps us out. So if you can take a few seconds, again, we would really, really appreciate it. Last but not least, if you're interested in being a guest on a future episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, you can email me, rich@rageworks.net, or fill out the contact form on our Rageworks Podcast Network site, rageworksnetwork.com. Lastly, if you use Poddit, Poddit, or the Matchmaker service, both of those services exist to connect potential guests with podcasts. You can find Toys and Tech of the Trade there as well. If you're not familiar with the service, we'll make sure to link to it in the show notes. So if you are looking for guests for your podcast or looking to be a guest on a podcast, including this one, you can find us there as well. Thank you guys, as always, for your continued support. We will see you in 2 weeks with a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade. That's it. I'm out of here. Peace. Toys and Tech of the Trade is part of the Rageworks podcast network, your source for rants about gaming, entertainment, and the works. Visit us at rageworksnetwork.com.